tell you this story tonight because in many ways it illustrates the state of things in Missouri in that time just before this organization was formed. The East Prairie area was on the edge of Swamp East, had been drained through the work of the Little River Drainage District about 25 years before. It eliminated the habitat of a lot of wetlands creatures. The swamp forest had been cut, clearing the land for farming and providing wood for the railroad development and the growing communities of the area, but also clearing the area of wildlife. The rest of the Ozarks had lost their forests to development and industry. Wildlife was slaughtered or had fled. There are pictures of city markets that have wildlife on poles outside for people to buy. It was the time when Rudolph Bennett and Werner Nagel compiled their landmark study of Missouri wildlife, showing that fewer than 100 ruffed grouse were left in Missouri, not more than 2,000 deer in the state, not more than 3,500 wild turkeys remained in the 45 counties that were considered Ozarks country. Beaver and mourning doves were close to extinction. Erosion was clogging streams, ruining the fishing and killing the fish. Our state was just over a century old when all of that happened. It had been about 2 centuries since the first European settlers arrived, searching for silver, finding lead, chopping down trees to use for fires, to melt the lead ore out of the rock. Not long after the settlers began to trickle in, and within a few decades, the trickle became a flood. Ole Rolvag wrote, it was as if nothing affected people in those days. They threw themselves blindly into the impossible and accomplished the unbelievable. The unknown, the untried, the unheard of was in the air. People caught it, were intoxicated by it, and threw themselves into it, laughing at the cost. Of course it was possible. Everything was possible out there. There was no such thing as impossible anymore. The human race had not known such faith and self-confidence since history began. Yes, indeed, those years of the 18th and 19th century were all of those things, but what was the cost? What was the cost? Our ancestors spent a century and more living in the misunderstanding that the earth was put here just for our benefit and to be used with no regard for its finite nature. It was once said that here in central Missouri, the farmland was so rich that you could plant a 10-penny nail at night and harvest a crowbar in the morning. And so that was the way people felt about the land. They could grow those crowbars year after year after year. And when the land could no longer support crowbars, there was always more land that could be used. Those early Missourians were fortunate because they came to a state filled with woods and game. Wild game was not just for the outdoorsman or the gentleman hunter, it was a livelihood for many. But the wild game could not keep up with the double threat of unrestricted hunting and the removal of timber without putting anything back. Acre after acre of woods disappeared for decade after decade as we built our homes and our churches and our schools and our businesses, logs and boards. We heated our buildings with wood. Our early railroad locomotives were wood burners. The great steamboats burned cord after cord of wood on every trip upstream, and some of them even carried their own wood cutters with them. For several years, we had roads made out of wood. It's true, as Rolvag wrote, there was no such thing as impossible anymore. At least, not until there was no more anymore. In 1899, commercial tree cutters took almost 724 million board feet of lumber out of Missouri. Taking from the land and returning nothing was not something easily recognized then. And by the time of the Great Lion Hunt, timber cutters were able to take only 74,000 board feet of lumber out of our forests because there were no forests left. In 1933, the Fish and Game Director, Wilbert Buford, reported that game farms were being abandoned because the practice of raising pheasants to be released into the wild had been a failure. Trout hatchery production was being cut back. The waterfowl season was called the most unfavorable in history. The legal deer hunter kill was 68 deer in a 3-day season. That was when the federal government first suggested maybe it could plant some trees and start a national forest in Missouri, and the Missouri legislature reluctantly allowed a little bit of space for that. And that was about the time some people were becoming so alarmed about the devastation of our outdoors that they started coalescing into a movement. And on September 10th, 1935, those who had had enough held their historic dinner right here. A modern Department of Conservation was created out of that, and all of us in this room are living the legacy of those critical efforts 7.5 decades ago. Today, whether we stalk the wild creatures of the woods or whether we merely soak up the beauty of the trees as we stroll through those woods, it is difficult to envision how bad things were before that group of dedicated people with vision that could not be denied mobilized the voters of Missouri to pull us back from the environmental disaster that had settled upon us, that generations of our predecessors had produced. There is some comfort in recognizing what began here 75 years ago tonight. There is some comfort in recognizing the good that has occurred in the 3/4 of a century since, but there must be discomfort too. There will always be those who do not understand the message of Genesis that God gave man dominion over the earth and all of the creatures created earlier. There remain too many who do not understand the difference between dominion and domination. Domination is an excuse. Dominion is an obligation. Domination is a rationale for selfish and uncaring consumption. Dominion is a responsibility to save, to preserve, to create that which is lasting, that which touches our spirit. Domination is short-sighted. Dominion is long-term understanding that we cannot survive in ignorance and in disrespect of the land that gives us life. Domination is a destructive narrowness of immediate gratification. Dominion is an understanding that there are, as Aldo Leopold put it, things in this world more important than dollar signs and ciphers, and many of those things attached to the land and to the life that is on it and in it. Nancy Wood, whose poetry interprets Native American voices, has written in a verse called Many Winters. Now this is what we believe. The mother of us all is earth. The Father is the Son. The grandfather is the Creator who bathed us with his mind and gave life to all things. The brother is the beasts and the trees. The sister is that with wings. We are children of earth and do it no harm in any way, nor do we offend the sun by not greeting it at dawn. We praise our grandfather for his creation. We share the same breath together, the beasts, the trees, the birds, the man. We all in this room understand that. Those of us here tonight know it, that we share the same breath together, the beasts, the trees, the birds, the man. And we know we can never again ignore the gifts or abandon the gifts of nature. We know that there is a balance between mankind's demands and nature's gifts, and we must seek it and strike it and defend it. But mankind is a hard animal to teach, perhaps because of our intelligence and our arrogance about our intelligence and our conceit. We refuse to learn from the obvious situation around us or remember lessons taught us from the hard experience of previous generations, or the experiences that are so recent that they are within the lifetime of this organization. The fact is, the Conservation Federation of Missouri and its affinity organizations are more needed now than ever. And so tonight needs to be less a celebration than it needs to be a rededication to the world we must share with nature, or we will surely die. Have you ever gazed on naked grandeur where there's nothing else to gaze on? Set pieces and drop curtain scenes galore. Big mountains heave to heaven which the blinding sunsets blaze on. black canyons where the rapids rip and roar? Have you swept the visioned valley with the green stream streaking through it, searched the vastness for something you have lost? Have you strung your soul to silence? Then for God's sakes, go and do it. Hear the challenge, learn the lesson, pay the cost. Have you wandered in the wilderness, the sagebrush desolation, the bunchgrass levels where the cattle graze? Have you whistled bits of ragtime at the end of all creation and learned to know the desert's little ways? Have you camped upon the foothills? Have you galloped o'er the ranges? Have you roamed the arid sunlands through and through? Have you chummed up with the mesa? Do you know the moods and changes? Then listen to the wild. It's calling you. Have you suffered, starved, and triumphed, groveled down, yet grasped at glory, grown bigger in the bigness of the whole? Done things just for the doing, letting babblers tell the story, seeing through the nice veneer the naked soul? Have you seen God in his splendors, heard the text that nature renders? You'll never hear it in the family pew. The simple things, the true things, the silent men who do things. Then listen to the wild. It's calling you. They have cradled you in custom. They have primed you with their preaching. They have soaked you in conversation through and through. They have put you in the showcase. You're a credit to their teaching. But can't you hear the wild? It's calling you. Let us probe the silent places. Let us seek what luck betides us. Let us journey to a lonely land I know. There's a whisper on the night wind. There's a star, a gleam to guide us. And the wild is calling, calling. Let us go. 75 years of history reminds us of who we were. The future beckons us and challenges us to think of what can be and what must be. And all the wild is calling, calling. To all the years that come, let us go. Let us go.